it's a common frustration that people have things that they want to get done that they're just not getting done. And, that's what time blocking offers a solution to, because when I sit down at my desk, I'm not like, okay, of the 40 things I need to do, what am I going to do right now? And, that can be paralyzing, dropping in, oh my God, I have 40 things to do. I'm so behind, and you get in versus like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do right now. And those 39 other things I'm not doing right now.
Welcome to the world of energy, where science meets spirit. Ancient wisdom merges with cutting-edge knowledge, and the possibilities for a healthier, happier you are endless. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Energy Works. I am here with Blaine. Hi, Blaine.
Hey, Lauren.
And I'm kind of excited about this conversation because it was in my mind for a while to ask this question to Blaine. And then, of course, the way the field works is things start showing up when you start putting your attention on them. And so I opened my New Yorker magazine, and there was this whole article about time management and how there's whole Reddit sites devoted to all of these different ways to journal. Meanwhile, journals have been making a big comeback. Yay for physical writing on a physical piece of paper. And then ways to manage your time within that on physical paper and on all of these journals. And one of the things that they mentioned was time blocking. Now, I would have just glazed over that because that's just how my brain works, but I didn't, because this is something that I learned about from Blaine. And so just really quickly, time blocking is, kind of exactly how it sounds. You literally block out things on your schedule for what you're going to do with them. And I kind of think back to going to school where you would have like your blocks of time. You knew you had an 8:15 class every Tuesday, Thursday, and every Monday, Wednesday. And so you just put that on your calendar. And so it's the same kind of thing. You block out your time for, I'm going to do this at this time, and this at this time, and this at this time. It's very metal for those of you that follow the 5-element theory with us over all of this time we've been on the podcast. And you know that the metal element is very organized and very specific and clear on what they do. So time blocking is like you open the dictionary up for a metal element and time blocking is right there. It's like exactly what you think it is. You're going to spend your time exactly how you write it down. For me, a wood water element, water is very flowy and fluid, and time blocking, I'm like, hell no to that. I'm just going to flow with however it goes. I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it. I like to follow my biorhythm and like wake up when my body wakes up, all of this sort of quote, natural stuff. So that's how I roll. And Blaine rolls with the time blocking. She actually teaches courses on how to do this time blocking, which I've taken and I love them. And then I swipe left on it all because I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But then I started to keep thinking about it more. And then when I saw it in this magazine, I was like, maybe there's something more to this that I have been overlooking. And I had this thought, because I've been trying to take some time off this winter. And for me, what that means is, like, I love nothing more than to have a day where I have nothing scheduled, like wide open, nothing. And then if I have more than one day, 2, 3, a week, a month, like this is my bliss spot. So I've been trying to like create that open space. Well, the problem with that is nature abhors a vacuum. And so I keep having this time where I've nothing to do, but then it fills up. And it doesn't fill up with like me playing or wandering in the woods or all the things I thought that I would be doing. It fills up with like all the things that I had, not done previously. Things I've got to write, things I've got to edit, classes I've got to create, like all of this stuff. And I started to just get really frustrated. Like all this free time that I thought I was creating is not being created and not being held. And then in our online community, there was a question posed of what you're going through personally that you're really working on lately. And I thought, this is it. Like, I feel like Sisyphus holding the walls of time back instead of climbing the mountain. I'm just like pushing the walls of time away so that I can be inside an open space of time with nothing to do. And it just keeps being so Sisyphean difficult. So I asked Blaine, how do you handle that issue? And she's like, this is a podcast. I'm going to answer you on the podcast. So I'm really excited to hear from Blaine how she works in free time, joyful time, unstructured time in her very structured way of time management. And hopefully we can all learn how to be more skillful with our free time. So Blaine, drop us some wisdom.
Oh, I love this topic so much. And I've also, because as you said, I teach time blocking. The container in which I teach time blocking is in a business container. I run a group within energy medicine yoga called Conscious Business Builders Club. And everyone who is in this group that I lead are entrepreneurs, business owners, wellness professionals, yoga teachers, healers, that sort of thing. And so the container that I teach it in is a business container. And the objective of it is to help people get things done, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're juggling a lot of balls. And so time blocking, I can't remember the institution, if it was Stanford or Harvard. It was one of those, well-known institutions, did a study of all of the project management and time management techniques out there, and time blocking came out as the winner, as the most effective one. And so it's known to be very powerful, and it works great for me. I would say with a relative ease, I adopted time blocking into my time management, and I love it and I use it, and it has really helped my productivity. And then I started teaching it. I took a course on it myself. And then I started teaching it to others. And, it's the elements. This is the energy of managing your time. Some people really push back and struggle and have all of these questions like you have. And, what do you do with this? What do you do with that? And so I've learned that some people don't take to it as easily and have all the reasons to not like it, usually because they're more comfortable going with flow, like you said. But what happens, again, this is the business container, is that people know, like they have their written down list on a piece of paper, or they have the list in their head of the 10 things they want to do. And then they have this open day and they're like, I'm going to get my 10 things done. And then because the day just goes on and people are distracted and want to do what they want to do, the day goes by and they did 0 of their 10 things. We meet maybe once a week, and then it happens again, and they're meeting with me 1 week later and they haven't done any of their things. And so I'm like, okay, let's go back to time blocking. And that's the push-pull. There's this very feminine energy that we have, this yin energy, which is formless, right? And flow. And then there's this masculine energy, which is like the container in structure. And some of us work more in the yin energy, and some of us work more in, I have a very masculine yang energy a lot of the time, including how I structure my day. But it's more than how you structure your day. As a business owner, it's following through on your commitments, right? So maybe a more yang person will say, I've committed to deliver this course and I'm going to launch it on this day and this is going to happen. And then, the yin is like, oh, halfway through, I have this other wonderful idea, right? So the yang is like, that's a great idea. You can do that in the future. You've committed to this. Where the yin is like, oh, no. Let's scratch that. This new, and then as a business owner, it's really hard to get traction. And so there's always this push pull between honoring the rhythm of your own energy And the real life necessity, and again, I'm speaking in the container of business, but it can be all the different, writing a book, being an artist, a creative project, opening a brick and mortar pottery studio. It can be all the different things that people want to do, writing a cookbook, running their family. This, I'm like pulling my hands apart, like one hand pulling on the other, this dynamic tension between wanting room for space and creativity and flow, but also needing the realistic structure of getting things done. And so the way time blocking works is what Lauren said. And the way it's classically done, and this is the way I do it, is you put basically everything on your schedule. Everything you do, from taking a shower, brush your teeth, go to the gym, make your lunch, and your different tasks that you have to do. And so I have a block, like I'm here in Florida, and one thing I like to do once a day is go for this 30-minute walk around the block. I live near the ocean. It's really beautiful. And I like to walk away from my computer, leave my phone in my house, and just go for a walk. And I schedule that usually pretty close to after lunch. So yes, like that is my free time, but that is a block I have. So if that day all of a sudden I'm like, well, I'd rather meditate, or I would rather do some gentle yoga and stretching, or you know what, I'm really deep in this project, I'd rather take this time to keep working on my project. In the moment, I can decide to do something different than, and the time blocking doesn't always work perfectly. And then, you get the questions from, I'll call them beginner time blockers. Well, how do I know how much time to block if I've never done it before? And, there's some trial and error. You do your best, you block the time. But what it helps you avoid is the inertia you get from this whole giant open blank sheet of time where you basically don't get started on anything. Does that answer your question, Lauren?
Well, yes and no. And then, of course, it opens up some other questions, because I'm just going to start with the last one that you just opened up, like that big inertia time where nothing happens and then nothing gets done. And I did a solo podcast just not that long ago about being bored. And there's something that magical that happens when you go through all the layers of everything and you come to boredom, and then you keep going through all the layers. And that doesn't happen if you always have something to do. That happens when you have a wide open stretch of nothing and you wander around your house, not doing the things that you're meant to do, and lying down and then standing up and then walking outside and then coming back in and then making a sandwich and eating half of it. Like, it happens in that moment of like, I don't know what's next. Because if you always know what's next, where is the space for serendipity, for something new to emerge?
I think I truly can't imagine me just having days that I walk around just bored, waiting for serendipity. I'm a meditator. And so I think me just sitting down and being quiet for 30 minutes every single morning, some people would consider that boring. And it's definitely a time that I would say the layers of my consciousness start to have some space that they don't have. I'm also a runner. I'm running 15 miles tomorrow morning. So I get out, for a long time and just move my body and breathe. Sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes I might listen to something audible. A lot of times I don't listen to anything. And so I feel like I get a lot of space for my brain. I mean, that's, when the great ideas come to me when I'm running. And so obviously all of those things are time blocked. I think the mix of structured time, or, if you want to call it an open block or free time, because you can put as much free time on your calendar as you want, right? There's no rule that you have to have X% of time doing this and X% of time doing that. It's just for people to, it's a common frustration that people have things that they want to get done that they're just not getting done. And, that's what time blocking offers a solution to, because when I sit down at my desk, I'm not like, okay, of the 40 things I need to do, what am I going to do right now? And, that can be paralyzing, dropping in, oh my God, I have 40 things to do. I'm so behind, and you get in versus like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do right now. And those 39 other things I'm not doing right now. This is doing, those are not doing. And I can focus and my brain, because what happens when we don't have our blocks written down is that our brain is like, but what am I going to do this? What am I going to do this? And I'm doing a spinning finger, right? But it's like, no, I know what I'm doing. I know when I'm doing item 38. I know when I'm doing item 37. I know when I'm doing item 36. My brain doesn't have to wonder how I'm possibly going to get those done, because I know exactly when I'm going to get them done, because I've written down when I'm going to get them done. And so it's this relaxation for the brain and opportunity to focus on one thing at one time, in like this structured way. Because again, I work with business owners all the time, and they get paralyzed. This is so common. They have so many things to do. They feel paralyzed and do none of them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So you've sort of said this already, but I just want to be super clear for myself and our listeners. So I know you just had a friend in town, and you also were just launching a very big project within our company. And so, when I have a friend visit, I like to, again, clear my schedule as much as possible, because I want to visit with my friend and I don't know what's going to happen. What does she want to do or he want to do? Do they want to go for a walk or a ski or a swim, or just sit and drink tea for 3 hours and talk about everything we haven't talked about for the last 20 years? Did you schedule, or do you schedule, this is my hanging out with my friend time? This is my, do you have spaces for that? And then also on top of that, I know you've got the meditation and the running time, which I think probably leaks into what I'm going to ask next. But do you ever have those times where you're just like, I'm blocking out this and I don't know what's going to be in this block. I'm just giving myself 3 hours this afternoon. Something will fill it. I have nothing. I'm just leaving an open space for magic to happen.
So, yes. So my friend who just came to visit, she has her schedule too. And so I was out of town the week before. So it was really only 1 week that it just all worked, that I was going to be here and that she was going to be here. And so I, told her before, like, I'm going to be working. And so we had a very open dialogue about her going to the beach by herself and her, and she's very independent. Like I wouldn't have, a friend who's less independent, I wouldn't have worked with this way. But I know this woman is super independent. She can take care of herself. She doesn't need me babysitting. She wants to be in the warmth. It is, she just flew out today. I just took her to the airport a couple of hours ago. It's like 8 degrees where she's heading to. And so she wanted to come visit for warmth. And I call her my mermaid friend. I think she's going to Hollyhock. So those of you who come to Hollyhock this year can meet my mermaid friend, and you will know in 2 seconds why I call her that. She loves the water. She loves to be at the beach. She loves, she'll, the yin of the water with the yang of the sun over her head, and kind of being in the mix of all of that. Like, so she knew coming in that she was going to be going to the beach by herself and doing some things by herself. And then we had time that we would do things together. So I guess that's time blocking. We just, but we were all very much on the same page, because if she, I wanted her to not come if that wasn't going to, work with that, or try to, find some other week if we possibly could. What was the other question? Yes. So Sundays, I really try to make Sundays my nothing day. I am going to run. There's a evening yin yoga class at a yoga studio here in Florida that I like to go to on Sunday night. And so that's kind of a thing early in the morning and the thing late in the day that I enjoyed doing on Sundays. But I really try to have nothing on my calendar on Sundays and just do on those days whatever I feel like doing. It's not that easy for me, to be honest. There's, there's a lot to do. And we even have yoga meetings on Sundays sometimes. And so it's not something I can always do, but that is what I really like, is to have most of the day open on Sunday.
That's funny when you said it's not that easy to do. I thought at first what you meant is like having nothing to do, but really what you meant is there's other things asking for your time that sometimes you have to schedule on Sunday. But when you have nothing to do, you're stoked on it.
Yes. I really crave the space. I crave the space on Sundays. Like, that's, in my perfect world, I would have nothing to do on Sundays, and I would feel like my cup was very full for Monday.
I love that. This is super helpful because I really have been struggling with this. Like I said, like I feel like the walls keep, closing in a little as I'm trying to like hold some open space, but everything keeps, but you have to do the 40 things, right? And of course, what half of those are because we're working on them together. And even like myself, like I keep loading things onto the plate. Like it's very hard to just keep an empty space. And so I like this idea of the potentiality because, I've asked for that in my home as well. Like I need some time, and it's so funny. I'm trying to do both the flow and the scheduling at the same time. It's very difficult. I need a certain amount of time totally alone, where like no one's in the house, not just alone where like I'm in my office, but no one can be in the house or on the property. And then it's like, well, how much time do you need? I'm like, I don't really know, but I know I need some. So like that's yin and yang. And what it's emerged is that like every creative project that I've done, and like the 3 books that I've written are just 1 or 3 creative projects. Like I've done many, many creative projects, and they all emerge from the void, right? From me just spending a lot of time alone. I'm a very cerebral person, and I'll be physical and then cerebral, and somehow the two of those interact, and then something emerges, whether it's a book or, I've written musicals, I've written one-woman shows, like all kinds of stuff, written songs. They all emerge from that void. And if I don't have that time, I start to not feel like myself. I can go for a really long time doing all the things and ticking all the boxes and doing my work really at a high level, but I start to forget who I really am. And who I really am only emerges when I have a lot of alone time for me to fully emerge into that. And then that inhabits that empty space. So I think this is helpful for me to start to think about, instead of being amorphous, like I need alone time or I need solo house time, to be very like, to somehow like bring the yang into that and say, I need this exact amount of time on these days, which is different than I've ever operated. But now that, I have other people in my world, I don't just live alone, and I can't just have all my days be exactly my design, right? So I like this idea of somehow trying to figure out how to time block some of that so that I can hold some open space open in my world.
Yeah. I have a couple of thoughts about that. One of them is, your nature abhors a vacuum. And I struggle with that too, with my Sundays. It's like, oh, I have I can do this and I can do this and I can, and all of that. Like really, I call it Nothingness Day because I want it to have nothing. Like I'm intentional. Like I want Sunday to be my Nothingness Day, and I want to hold it with nothing. But I also, this is, we're in this society, we value productivity like above anything else. And I feel like I have this deeply ingrained, like way in my cells, self-worth definition about my productivity. And so the urge to value myself on what I produce is very strong. And I think because I have the nature abhors a vacuum too. And then I just feel this like, I'll say yes to things I should say no to, or that, because I want to like check all the productivity boxes. And so it's, I'm working on, and I journal about this a lot, having self-worth absent of productivity. And it's hard for me. And so I think that I attract the filling of the vacuum because of the internal voices I have.
I mean, I think everyone can resonate with that so strongly. In fact, I was just thinking about that the other day, because on some level, like, there's so much in the world right now. There's so much. There's millions of books. I forget how many books are published every year, but it's a lot, and the media, all the TV shows and the movies and the podcasts and the just everything. And when I think about, like, what do I want to do next? What do I want to make or create? I'm like, the world doesn't need anything right now. I mean, the world needs a lot of things. Let me just correct myself. The world needs a lot of things right now. But, like, does the world need another book? Does the world need another podcast? Like, I mean, when Amy Poehler, who just won the Golden Globe for Best New Podcast, when she started her podcast, she was like, she kind of joked, she's obviously a comedian, but she joked about, I'm finally jumping on the podcast bandwagon. Like, everybody has a podcast, right? And that's like the thing now. So, I was sort of thinking all of that, and I just I got really slow and still in myself, and I thought, I don't have to keep producing so much. Like, not that I'm done or ready to retire or any of that, but like that idea of that my self-worth is attached to what I produce. Is there some way that we can kind of spin, massage, change that, and like have our self-worth be connected to like how kind we are, how generous we are, how peaceful we just are in ourselves? Nothing to do with what we're putting out into the world except for our coherent energy. But that it's not about, I did this, I created this, I built that, there's new product, there's new blah, 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 blah. Could it be enough? And in that afternoon when I was thinking that, I really felt like that. Like, I know I'm not done, but if I were, I've written 3 books, I've created a company, I've trained hundreds of teachers and taught thousands of students all over the world. Like, by any metric, you could say I've done enough. So what if I could feel that, like, I've done enough? And I feel good about it. And so that anything else that I do or produce or make is from this deep sense of desire or even need, and not the need to just be productive for productivity's sake.
Mm-hmm. I know. I know. It is the, the journey. My backdoor excuse to be productive is service. Like when I'm in like Conscious Business Builders Club and I'm really serving these entrepreneurs, I'm coming at it from a place of service. And that's, I'm kind of like joking, calling it backdoor, but it has emerged more in my trying to have self-worth outside of my productivity, finding self-worth in service. And yes, in service, I have to have schedules and, I have to do things. I mean, even this 200-hour yoga teacher training that's starting here in less than a month, it is an act of service. I mean, yes, it's also an act of productivity and it's an act of making income and, it's an act of all those things as well. But I feel better about how I move through the world and, the framing of the voices in my head, when the more I really think about spending my time in service.
I think that's such a beautiful model that more of the world should adopt. Those in service who don't actually do service, right? Like all of I'm going to just say it, sorry everybody, but all the politicians, right? Their literal name is public servant. And I mean, if anyone has ever worked in the service industry, which I did for many, 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 many years, I think it's a really good training. And I think to bring that forward instead of productivity, can we all be in service? And in service to, I don't know, that's where I guess you got to fill in your blank, in service to a higher calling or a higher purpose. it kind of comes back to this idea of kindness and goodness and caring and generosity and, the truth that we know we have the means to take care of every single person on this planet. We just don't have the will to do it. What if we could be in service to that, in service to the regeneration of the planet, and in service to that goodness? I feel like what's really lacking, now we're just going in all these other directions, but that's what's just coming up in the field right now. It is, I mean, I don't think this is controversial saying that we need to come together versus tear each other apart, but what we do need more of is inspiration, of inspiring leaders, inspiring leadership from every level of whatever it is that you're leading, inspiring. And what I love about that is, that is a very yogic word. It means the in-breath. So like this deep inhale, which oxygenates every cell in your body, brings them fluffed up with life so that they can support the life of you. That's what inspiration is. And so if we could have more of that, which leads to beneficial productivity, right? Like we don't need any more single-use plastics. We don't need to produce any more of those. We have a big production line that makes a lot of single-use plastic. We're done. Can we just be done with that productivity and then start to produce the things that we are in shortage of in this world, which is kindness, caring, generosity, free healthcare, free education, like those kind of things. Like, let's produce that, more of that. I feel like I've taken us away from my time blocking idea, but really what this has given me, Blaine, is this idea of how I can hold this space open to create the things that I think are valuable and important, instead of feeling this claustrophobia by all of the things that I'm avoiding doing. That's what I'm taking away from this conversation. I don't know what are you taking away from this conversation?
Yeah, I think, in service to the listeners and the watchers on YouTube, I hope that people take away that, the energy of time management, right? Or the energy of how you schedule your day or your life or whatever is unique. Just like everything in your energy is unique. And so, time blocking is just a tool that has been proven to work, right? So, and it's one that is pretty basic. Everybody has you don't need special things, everybody has a calendar. And, instead of having all your little, to-do lists everywhere on sticky notes, like your to-do list goes on your calendar and you're just like, I'm going to do this on this day at this time. I'm going to do this on this day at this time. And so you don't have this open, Lauren and I talk about like these open loops in our brain, right? It's, like knowing you've written it down in the future and that's what when you're going to do it can close the loop, because you don't have to like be stressing it's not getting done because you know exactly when you're going to do it. And so you can focus on something else. And so I think if you choose to time block, then, how you work with your free time, is it whole days? Is it mornings? Is it, however you do it, a walk every day like I do. Like that's your energy and that's your flow, and how many hours a day you want to work and all of that can be completely up to you. Just the science and the structure of the time blocking just provides some ability to know, at a given time, what you're going to focus on and what you're not going to focus on. And so if everything goes well, which, it rarely does, at the end of the week, you know what you're going to have done. Like you can look on Monday and be, okay, by Friday, I'm going to have done these things. And sometimes you're ahead of schedule and sometimes you're behind schedule or what have you. But, or, you drag things around on your calendar, but it gives you peace of mind and focus.
In the best scenario, if you can really work it, which I think practice will bring, it is the yin and the yang of the time management. It's like giving the structure so that you can have the flow within the structure, right? It's quite, and what I will say, just in closing here, I'm always really surprised because I know how structured your time management is. But for all of you waters and fires out there that are listening, I'm always really surprised because whenever I call Blaine up and I'm like, can we shift this around? Or do you have 10 minutes right now? I've got to run something by you. Literally 99% of the time, Blaine, you say yes. You rarely say to me, I don't have time right now. And I'm always surprised by that because I'm like, I know she blocks her time and I'm literally calling her in the middle of the day. And yet she always has time for me. So there's something flexible even within your structure that I really appreciate.
Good. Yes. Thank you. I do have time for you. Yeah.
So just for those of you out there that feel like this might be really rigid, which is one of my fears as this water element speaking, I'm afraid of the rigidity. But the truth is, it's like structure gives you the container in which you can do everything. Without that, it's really hard to get anything done.
Thank you, Lauren. And for all of you listeners and watchers, thank you for joining us for the podcast. And we are so happy you're here. Thanks for being part of our community in Energy Medicine Yoga and on Energy Works. Please drop us a comment or send us a message if you have any feedback. And we will see you on our next episode of Energy Works. Alrighty, Energy fans, that's a wrap on another positively charged episode of Energy Works. Lauren, this is the part where we get to use our energy puns.
It's been electrifying, hasn't it, Blaine? We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
If you're feeling amped up and you want to keep your energy flowing, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform.
And we'd love to hear from you. So please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates. So light up our inbox.
And spark a conversation with your friends to tell them about us. And we'll see you next time on Energy Works.